That's the life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. You gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. You gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loom that's trying to bet you like what you feel. Step on deck, give it a whirl. Hello, welcome to my world.
What's going on, all you Facebook Live and YouTube Live fishing freaks? Welcome to this episode of On Another Line Live. Tonight we're going to be talking about bassing after the spawn. Where do they go? How to find them? Best baits to get down there to catch them? And, episode title is going to be Where Do They Go? Targeting bass after the spawn in local waters. So a lot of stuff has happened for me over the last couple weeks. I talked to you guys about it last week, but I have landed a staff position with Gil. Michelle, their pro staff manager, and I have been in constant contact for what seems like 6 months now, trying to make sure that this is going to be a fit for everybody. I just took delivery on Sunday of a Gil Meridian X rain suit. And I am really excited to show you guys about that thing here coming up soon. I do have a video that's going to be released probably is going to be mid this week, if not this weekend. I want to do a total review of the thing. Initial view of the suit is that it's just as nice, if not doubly as nice, as my 100 mile per hour suit. And that's the only thing I really have to base it from, because that's the only rain suit I've worn in the last 10 years. With that being said, there's several features about the suit that I really, really like. One, I like the fact that it's semi-affordable. If you talk about like a sim suit, a high-end sim suit is going to cost you close to $1,000, which is crazy. You can get the Meridian X suit, and this is on their Gil's website. I'm not sure what pricing is on anybody else's stuff. They might, go to Borders. They might be able to cut you a deal. Maybe that 10% discount for sure for On Another Line. But the Meridian X jacket is $350, and I'm thinking the bibs are like $250. So you're looking about $600 with some tax on there. And it seems like a lot of money, usually is. But when you think about a rain suit, Misty paid almost $800 for the 100 mile per hour suit that I bought 10 years ago, or that she bought me. Lasted 10 years, which is crazy, but all the times that it kept me dry in the harshest conditions made it well worth it. That's $80 a year. I would pay triple that to stay dry on the water. But this one's a little bit cheaper, not cheaper made. I really like a lot of the features that I'll be showing you guys. It does have elastic around the cuff, but it is like the 100 mile per hour suit has elastic that kind of goes around your hand here. And if you have really thick wrists like I do, it would cut the circulation off to your hands eventually. But this Meridian X actually has a Velcro strap in there that has elastic on it, so you can basically dial that in the way you like it. Another really cool feature that I saw that I really like is there's an elastic band going from one pocket to the other around your back, so you can actually tighten the jacket up around your back. So when you're sitting down and you're on stuff like that, you're not getting wet. But again, initial response with my initial purchase here through Gil, I'm super happy with it. It's really nice material. I haven't had it out in the rain yet, but around here, as much rain as we get constantly on a daily basis. Matter of fact, it rained all day today. Came down. Every lake around this area, including the Ohio River, is busting at the seams. I think Cave Run is still up like 13 plus feet from normal pool. I think Grayson is up like 8 feet above normal pool. Like everything is crazy blown out. And I'm sure that's affected the spawn a little bit, but we're diving into that area now where, it's kind of what we're going to be talking about this evening is how to find bass after the spawn. But what I was saying about the gill suit that I picked up again is a Meridian X. So far, I am more than happy with it. It is an awesome thing. Let's see. Hey, Larry Slack, what's up, buddy? Tony in the house. Yeah, G Loomis used to have one, and I agree with you there. I wish they would come out with one. Shimano had a sweet one too. But I think a lot of things, Shimano and G Loomis, they kind of like outkick their coverage for a while, trying to expand their market too big, too fast, and I think that's kind of where they step back a bit. But did stepped into the gill suit. Happy so far. Check out the video that will be coming out very soon. Speaking of videos, the trip day 4 going to be released tomorrow, so you guys will be seeing that. Those of you guys that are following along the trip. So hope you guys out there are having an awesome Tuesday. It's been rainy and stuff here, but Brent Jones in the house. Brent Jones.
What's up, man? He's going to Alaska. Lucky duck.
It's funny you should mention that because Kyle just messaged me yesterday about trying to do a fly-in fishing trip to Alaska next year. I'm finding it really hard to find places in Alaska so I can catch a largemouth bass. Like, I thought, like, Hawaii would be like the spot that I would have an extreme like time finding a largemouth, smallmouth, or spotted bass. But it seems like they're there. But in Alaska, they are few and far between. Like every way you look, everybody's like talking about like salmon fishing and fly fishing and all that stuff. So the deal was that, I told him I would probably try to go. It's probably going to be pushing it out to 2 years because it is an extremely expensive venture to go to Alaska, it seems. A 6-day, 7-day, 6-night flight, round trip, lodging, boat, meals, guide, you name it, is about $5,000 per person, which it's absurd.
The trip to Alaska.
I am. I gotta go. Like I said, I've knocked out a lot of states. Matthew Strickland in the house. What's up, fellow? Hope you're out there catching them, man. Let us know where your next tournament is, man. So again, guys, welcome back to the podcast. For this episode, we're going to be talking about Gary Timberlake. What's up, buddy? How we doing? We're going to be talking about where fish are at in the Ohio, Northern Kentucky, Eastern West Virginia area. And that's the crazy thing about watching this podcast if you're not from our area, because the fish that we're talking about here may be totally different. If you're watching somewhere in Florida or Texas or, New Mexico, somewhere like that, our fish are going to be totally different than yours because you guys down there have probably been post-spawn for weeks. We are just now getting to that area where, some fish are still in the beds. Some fish are guarding fry, and then you have some bass that are totally post-spawn. So we are going to have to check it out. I got a little Chickamauga fishing charter in Key West.
I booked one time. It was really rough. I threw up the whole time. I would not recommend going in how big of waves we had, but it was not good.
Chickamauga for
tons
Matt.
of charters down there though.
Yeah, Strick says, "What's up, y'all? High River's loaded." Yeah, loaded just about like the Elite Series fish down there. That was crazy, man.
Loaded with carp.
Loaded with. I heard a buddy of mine went down and actually absolutely wrecked some sauger down there on the backside of the dam. I didn't believe they would still be biting, but told me he got like 75 sauger in one night. That's wrecking them. Obviously didn't keep all of them, but I did keep his couple limits.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
Still haven't done that whole thing where if you fish there, you have to have an Ohio license still. They never redid that. I hate that.
Yeah, there's no reciprocity agreement between Kentucky and Ohio anymore. So if you fish, um, actually, what it is that I think, man, I could be wrong, but it would be an Ohio license. But Ohio, the state was named after the river, not vice versa. So, from what I understand, my limited knowledge, Ohio water only extends out to roughly where the first bridge pillar would be on any bridge on the Ohio side. So, if you were fishing really close to the bank or fishing way up in there by the locks and or on the bank, yes, you would have to have a Ohio fishing license. I would imagine if you were on a boat on the river, there's really nothing they could actually say to you if you had either an Ohio or a Kentucky fishing license. I wouldn't test that. I am not an expert in that matter, so don't do that and say, "Oh, well, Tyler from on another line said I could do this." Well, you'll go to jail the same as I would.
I just think it's so stupid. Why are they picking on anglers? Like, it's been that way ever since I've lived here. I mean, I've fished there on that side, a bunch with my buddy Tyler Hensley, and it's always a good time, especially when different species are running. But I don't know. I think they should focus more on getting bass, F1 bass, and less on trying to write a $300 ticket to anglers who are already spending a lot of money to come in their area.
Well, I mean, it's a money grab. Both states are going to double the money in revenue there because you don't have to have one or the other. Now you have to have both. So, I've been a huge, I don't know. Eventually, it would be beneficial for everybody. I think they should make a total United States fishing license. Even if it was like $500 a year, I would buy it because, let's just say that, there's 50 states. If I pay $500 a year, that would be $10 per state that they get of my money. Now, am I going to travel to all 50 states? No. Does everybody travel like I do fishing? Also, no. But it would be cool to have that option because if you look at it, like, let's say Ohio, let's just say that somebody in Florida buys somebody that's fishing the Elite Series or somebody that's fishing the BFLs or somebody that travels a lot fishing like I do, and they buy that United States license, then $10 goes to every state. Whereas if I just buy the states I'm going to, California, Idaho, all these states are not getting any of my money. So that might be an option. But again, I think it would be there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians when it comes to the state legislature. Everybody wants their piece of the pie. And you're right, Gary Timberlake, it is 100% money. But this past weekend, actually, I didn't fish at all this weekend. I went, Misty had a LASIK eye appointment. She's going to have LASIK eye surgery next weekend or weekend after next. But went up there for a consultation, and we ate at Schmidt's in Columbus, which was one of my favorite places on the planet to eat. Went to the book loft for her for a while, and we drove back home. And then Sunday, had the old Harley Davidson out, the old skin pillar, as people call it. Rode about 250 miles on it, got some good grub and got to hang out. But the weekend before that, fished a tournament with Pedro Bass Club at Grayson Lake. It was absolutely the most brutal tournament I've ever fished in my life at Grayson. I normally go out there and catch a keeper or two. It was super tough. But with that being said, they were starting to spawn then. It was a full moon night. Water temperature 70 degrees ish. Definitely spawning. Water was 3 to 5 foot above normal pool, so you couldn't see the fish spawning in the normal areas. Now fish are, the water is 8 foot above summer pool. So I'm sure, again, as I mentioned in the start of the show, it did affect the spawn a little bit. But now we're kind of in that weird lull situation here where you have kind of 3 different camps of fish. One, you have fish that are still locked on the bed. Probably very few females on the beds right now. You may find a few. You're going to find a lot of males on the beds, especially guarding fry that have hatched. And sometimes you will see them off of the beds guarding fry. And that's where you're going to find them around different structure and stuff, which we'll talk about now or in just a minute. But this time of year becomes very, very tricky to catch those big, large females because they're kind of in that, you know, weird recovery period, if you want to say. You know, they've had nothing but, you know, procreation on their minds for months now. The days have gotten longer, the water temperatures are getting warmer. They've went up in the shallow and they've done their thing, and then now they're pulling out into deeper haunts, and they're, you know, lack of a better term, exhausted. So they're just kind of in that weird recovery period, whereas most of the males are still pretty aggressive. Those females have a decreased aggression area right now because, again, they're tired. They're just kind of is what it is. They may eat once a day, twice a day, something like that. They're not out there just chewing on everything that runs by their nest or anything like that. But again, right now, especially if you can find males guarding fry, they are super easy to catch. And again, this, you know, especially if you're throwing, you know, if you have a Garmin LSV 34 or LVS 34 or something like that, where you can actually see the bait balls and see the fish in them, it's almost shooting fish in a barrel at that point. But a lot of the times these fish are, you know, the males are out there guarding these fry, and the deal is that, you know, once a fry, you know, a baby bass is born, the odds are stacked against that to even make it to fingerling size. And I think, from what you know, the very limited knowledge I have, it's like 30% of the bass of all spawns are the only thing that have quite the chance of even making it to fingerling size, especially depending on where you're fishing at. If you talk about like the Ohio River, where there's many predators, I'm talking like catfish, sauger, walleye, white bass, striper, you know, you name it, anything, gar. There's just so many fish out there that would eat a fry or fingerling bass, even including another bass. That makes it extremely tough for them things to live. But even in lakes like Grayson, Yatesville, stuff like that, there are some stripers. There are definitely some catfish. Obviously, bass are eating them. Crappie, bluegill, you name it. These things are all looking for a meal, and an easy bunch of fry to run up through and eat is going to be a great meal for any fish that is predatory like that. But one of the things you're going to notice is that these fish guarding the fry become very, very territorial and aggressive. And the fact of the matter is that they understand, what I would assume biologically, that these fish, these small fish, have a very limited chance to live. So these males are out there guarding it and trying to get as many of these fish out there in the water into the fingerling size, so they can, you know, basically procreate and have, you know, a large species. So, you know, we're at that situation now where, you know, they're changing their behavior. And one thing I will tell you is there's a major difference between largemouth and smallmouth during post spawn. Largemouth, in my opinion, become very, you know, lethargic. We're especially talking about the females. They have a recovery period. They definitely change their behavior. They have a decreased aggression. But smallmouth, in my opinion, I think they just eat all year round. I don't care if it's pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. They just eat.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I always think it's kind of tricky to catch them in the spawn. So the immediate post spawn before the water gets really hot is a lot of fun, especially when the water gets warm enough to where you get a good topwater bite. Me and Jared fished this past weekend with Marathon Bass Club, which was a great time, and that's a great club. And we actually caught quite a bit of fish on topwater, which is always an absolute blast. So I hope that it continues to be fun and we don't get a huge lull. But I don't know about you, man, but I am constantly thinking about going north now. Once it gets to, you know, mid-May, June, that's what I'm thinking about is smallmouth.
Yeah, obviously went to Lake St. Clair a few weeks ago. It was May 3rd, I believe. Went up for a one-day trip, and it was a great time. Froze my rear end off. It was not supposed to be that cold that weekend, but I I've been going to Lake St. Clair for the last 8 years religiously. And when I mean religiously, like the last 5 years, I've went 3 to 5 to 8 times a year. Like I go up there a ton. And Lake St. Clair does not fish anywhere near as good as it used to. I'm not sure what that is. One of it's got to be fishing pressure. Two, I'm not sure. The water clarity is weird up there. Like it seems this year's been extremely crazy because it seems like there's been wind out of the north and east, or I'm sorry, yeah, the northeast a ton, and the mile roads and everything in the United States water, which is the only thing you can fish right now, is just blown out. There's just a couple foot of visibility. And it's really tough to catch smallmouth bass there. But like I've the big fish. Like I don't know if you guys fish Lake St. Clair and you're not part of the Lake St. Clair original group or whatever it is. Sometimes that group is really testy and really makes me want to go out of that group because there's a bunch of freaking punks on there that just want to comment naysaying stuff and just being a butthole about it. But people on there have been complaining about how bad that this year's fishing has been. And I don't think, I don't know how it gets any better. Really don't. Largemouth Lake St. Clair is fun. Definitely got it. That's the biggest thing. I want to make sure that I chunk off one day, like a whole day, to target smallmouth or largemouth the next time I go.
Man, it's so much fun. I don't know. I'm hoping that it's just a matter of finding them because, I've seen some 6-7 pounders already caught there, and this year just from pictures. And then I'd like to kind of get down toward the Detroit River and get on a largemouth bite down there too, because I fish the canals a lot, but I've never gone all the way down to the Detroit River.
Detroit River is weird. There's so much current that flows through there. Like I would just recommend you driving down on the Detroit River and just hitting spot lock on your boat and watching because it freaking rips.
Yeah.
Thinking about throwing my name in the hat and fishing as a boater in the St. Clair or the Detroit River BFL series. Fish the first one, see how that goes. Really interested and really intrigued to do that. I like it. I fished as a co-angler for 100 years now. It seems like I'm just getting to the point where I just want to run my own water and see what I have to offer and see if I can put my wits up against the best of the best in the weekend angler thing and see if that happens. And then I'll never be able to fish the Toyota series, probably nor would I want to. I don't have the gear or the equipment to do that, but I also don't have the funds to do that. The Toyota series is like $1,750 a tournament, which is absurd to fish. But BFL is coming up soon, and we'll be looking at that. So going back to the post-spawn, where to find fish topic here, where do we find bass in the post-spawn or after the spawn here in our area? Well, the very first thing you should be keying on is going to be first break lines off of spawning flat. So obviously fish finds shallow, flat areas, normally with hard bottom or spots of hard bottom to do their spawning. And then eventually they have to come back out of that water and go deeper. Like they can't go any more shallow to get to a deeper one. They definitely have to come back out of those spawning flats to get where they want to go in those summer haunts. So the first break line's off the spawning flat. So if I'm looking for something like that, I would look for a big spawning flat and look maybe at that 5 to 10 foot range coming off of those spawning flats. Normally, as we talked about on the show a lot of times before, in pre-spawn, they'll stage on really sharp banks that are close to spawning flats. Well, now they're on the spawning flats and they're going to be coming back off of there. So you just kind of have to time it up and see where those fish are at. The first or second break lines off the spawning flats are going to be a great spot to do that. And then as it gets warmer and the water temperature gets hotter, obviously some of the things that I key on is going to be drop-offs and ledges. The fishing that I do around here in the Grayson, Yatesville areas like that, there's not a ton of these drop-off and ledges. There are a few in Grayson, some in Yatesville, not as many. but I do really key on those things on the Ohio River. I'll look for, channel swings that are really deep, looking for deeper banks, looking for things that are, dropping off really, really steep, using side and down scan imaging to find fish and try to catch those fish. Now, it doesn't have to be forward facing sonar, obviously. I'm just talking about scanning these things, trying to find fish and humps that are on there, and then trying to catch those fish. Now, you guys are going to see on the next video of the trip, actually, which comes out tomorrow, it's going to be, Dusty and I were scanning at Lake Fork because they were just absolutely, they had our number one day and we couldn't find any fish, and it was super hot. It was like 95 degrees. So went out in this flat, done some scanning with side scan, and I found a big giant group of fish, and they were big. I was like, we gotta throw at these fish anyway. So I had a Carolina rig on, throw this thing out 20 times at these fish. Finally hook up on one of the fish. Snagged about a 25-pound carp. So that doesn't mean that's necessarily what you're after, but finding fish to cast at is always a morale booster for me, for sure. Another thing is shade near shallow cove or shallow cover, especially if it's early post spawn, which is basically what we're at right now. I think that those fish kind of drop off of the spawning flats and look for shaded banks that are, not so deep. They're just a little bit more deep than their spawning flats. And again, they're in that lull period, and they're having to do a little bit of recovery, especially those females. Now, if you find the males, they're still probably going to eat, especially if they're garden fried. So what do you guys think? What's your go-to structure for bass after the spawn? Do you like timber, grass lines, rock piles? Teach me something.
Man, I love timber. I wish we had some more more grass lines at this point, but in our area, it's just, we don't have a ton of prevalent grass lines yet. I think if I had one thing to pick as far as my favorite fishing, rock, timber, or grass, I would definitely say grass. But right now, I think it has to be timber. I just don't think around here we've got enough grass yet. And Tyler says timber all day long.
Yeah, I just saw a feature here that I've never dealt with before, so we'll try this out. Apparently, you can just have this show up on. Yeah, it's already over there. Old Tony's comments
cool.
already.
Yeah, Tony, I fished Smith Mountain before. It is an absolutely beautiful lake. I only went one time. It was at that time I had my aluminum boat. My buddy Greg Parkins. His in-laws have a house on it, and it was a beautiful lake. We just went way too early. We were there in March, and I don't know where the bass were, but we did not find them. They were assumingly really deep still. And
Mountain, Virginia or Alabama?
Yeah, Virginia. Yeah, it's where the MLF is right now. I'd say that's probably why Tony was asking about it. But they're having a really good tournament there right now. I mean, they are kind of crushing them on the a lot of the points and looking for herring spawns, and because they've got blueback herring as well as other shad species there. But we kind of gave up because the bass weren't around yet, so we started catching a bunch of striper, which was really fun too. So. But I had a difficult trip, but that was a couple years back. I'd like to try it again. It's, for us, I think it's only about 4 hours. It's not a long way.
Tony says pads. Rob Reynolds says white fishing grass lines. Me, I try to switch it up a lot, but if you'll actually see it on like day 6 or 7 of the trip here in a couple weeks. I ended up finding bass guarding fry in a timber cove. It wasn't really a timber cove. It's like in Caney Creek Lake is a crazy lake anyway, but it's just a big bowl. But there's just like one little cut that has like trees and timber in it, but it's under the water. You can't see any of them, but they do have it marked with buoys. So we were pulling up in there, and it was really tough for us there to find fish, man. It was so tough, and they were definitely post spawn, and they were less aggressive. And then I started using my forward-facing sonar and just scanning these trees that I found. And dude, there was so much fry in those trees; it was absurd. And like how I realized that they were actually guarding fry was a happenstance. I had a jackal drift fry tied on with a 1/8 ounce head, and I threw it out and watched it go down on forward-facing sonar, and it goes down in that group of fry. And it goes down and the fry scatters, and there was a big blob in the middle of that fry, like right in the middle of it. And as soon as the fry scattered, that bass come up and just absolutely annihilated that drift fry. And I set the hook as about a 4-pound smallmouth. And I didn't beat him up too bad because I'm not a forward facing sonar guy. I do use it to find fish, but I just hate standing out there, standing on the trolling motor looking for fish. But I could have sat there and absolutely destroyed them for hours. Could have definitely weighed in a limit, probably had 18 pounds, probably in my biggest five. But the thing about it is that I was catching them on a sonar minnow, but Dusty was also dragging a really small green finesse worm, the exact same one he caught an 8.5 pounder on at Fork, through that timber 10 feet down, and was still catching the same fish that I was. They were definitely males. They were definitely garden fry. It just shows that they were super aggressive, and if you got anything close to that ball of fry, they were going to munch it.
It's fun. I like aggressive, dumb fish. I like the spring break fish, as our buddy Zona would say.
Yeah. And this time of year becomes a power fisherman's nightmare. Really tough to understand where these fish are at, for one, but two, catching them is crazy. So this is where you have to get the old egg beaters out. You have to get the fairy wands out. We got to get the spinning rods out. Throwing really slow presentations for these finicky bass, something like a Cinco, a compact jig, something like the 1099 from Blue Rock, which, by the way, guys, I'm sure you guys saw in the video there the other day. Borders Sporting Goods over in Ashland picked up Blue Rock custom tackle. They have the 1099. They have some of the triple threat jigs, which I was just there today doing some inventory on the Loomis stuff and things that they had there and seeing what they had. And one of the collars of the triple threat, I think it was River Crawl, is totally gone, which is awesome. They do have a few Neds there that they have. They got some of Jesse's soft plastics and things. Really cool bait, man. And again, they are not tungsten. I've been asked that 15 times over the last week posting that video. They are lead. They are hand tied. They're different than any jig you've ever fished. One is a Ned rig that has a wire weed guard that is skirted, and the 1099 jig is a compact flipping and pitching jig that you can really absolutely wear them out on. It's a really good finicky bait that I'm gonna be throwing, especially this time of year. Shaky heads is another one. I actually just posted a picture today of my shaky head rig, and that was I have a G Loomis Interex Plus 822S SYR, which is a shaky head rod. I have it paired up with the Batmo reel, as I like to call it. It's actually a Shimano Xsense 3000, which is the most high-end spinning rod that I absolutely own, and I'll never buy anything higher than the Xsense. I probably will never be able to afford it. But the Xsense is an absolute game changer when it comes to spinning rods. Like, I didn't think it could get any better, but it actually does. Like, the Xsense is awesome. But I usually throw 15-pound Sunline, 15-pound Super Slick V2. I like moonshine because I can see it. Most people don't like that really bright line. You can get something like onyx or moss green. And I throw an 8-pound FC Sniper Sunline leader. I normally throw a 1/4 ounce head. I just like it a lot. I do pour my own with Do It molds, and I use a big hook. I just like it better that way. I feel like the fish get hooked up more. I throw a 5/0 hook on a 1/4 ounce shaky head. So I find that has a lot to do with me setting the hook and hooking those fish, having that, because it allows them to get less of the bait in their mouth and get more of the hook, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a big shaky head's a big player right now. I definitely like that around rock and timber both. I think Tyler and I have had a lot of success at Yatesville on a shaky head, and it's something that is always going to be a good, more of a power style finesse bait, if you will. You still get to set the hook pretty hard like a jig, and I don't know. I'm not really into throwing a shaky head on casting gear often. I feel like you just kind of lose the sensitivity. Most of the shaky heads that I like to throw are probably more 3/0, 4/0 hook and a 1/4 ounce to 3/16. But I think classically, I'm going to throw a trick worm on it. That's most common worm used on a shaky head. Actually, there's some missile bait ones that are essentially the same, and then there is the Sensei from Yamamoto is essentially the same bait, but it's kind of hard to go wrong with any of those, 6-inch finesse style worms.
Yeah, I mean, you got to throw the Cinco in there for sure. I like the Jackal Flick Shake as one of my favorite. I throw a lot of times. A lot of people don't even know this bait exists, but they actually may have discontinued it. I'm not sure. I haven't done any research because I bought like 30 bags the last time I bought them. But they're the Jackal Nico Rig Flick Shake. They have a bigger head on them, so it's easier to put it on the screw lock of the shaky head. Obviously designed for a Nico rig, but pretty cool stuff there. Ricky says that his favorite place to fish in a pre-spawn or post-spawn is super sunny banks with a shade spot, dock, lay down, or anything different. Definitely got to trust his opinion because the dude freaking whacks them. Told me the other day he fished for a bass for 4 hours on the bed, not even really seeing the fish, just knowing it was there, and caught the fish. So got more patience than I do. That's probably why you catch more fish than I do.
Golly, 4 hours for one fish. Commend you for that, man.
It's crazy. Trip to Del Hollow May 7th to the 10th was tough. We caught bass, bite was tough. Drop shot mostly. If you want to buzzbait early, a few stonos, swim jigs, and flooded buck brush. Dale, that's the weird thing about Del Hollow is that you always hear people talking about live scope and forward-facing sonar. That is one of the absolute few lakes where I do believe that you absolutely have to have it to catch numerous fish a day. Now, are you going to find some fish like you're talking about? Yeah, you're going to go out, you're going to go down and beat the banks, and you may catch 5 or 6 bass, 10 bass a day. But if you would like hop on a boat with forward-facing sonar there in Del Hollow, and you just went to one cove and just scanned that one cove with your forward-facing sonar, you would see an absurd amount of bait fish. And then those fish, I swear, I think when those bass are born, they just start chasing other bass, and all the way out into 80, 90, 100 foot of water. One of the craziest things that happened at Del Hollow for me, actually, Ricky Barnett was down there too. We were fishing the Ohio Bass Nation Team Tournament Series Championship down there, and the state championship. And we went down there, and Kyle and I caught 5 keeper largemouth bass out of 80 foot of water. I know you guys have heard me talk about that. That's where, I do believe that forward-facing sonar is cheating. Because I would have never fished for those fish in my entirety of my life if I didn't have that. There's no way. I'm not throwing a swim bait in 80 foot of water. I can promise you that. But it was crazy. We ended up catching 5 keeper bass. I mean, like one after the other in 80 foot of water. We were throwing a 1/2 ounce head to get it down there quick enough because they were on the move. But you can get it down there in front of them, they would eat it. And that's where fish care and handling safety of fish comes into play. Even if you don't tournament fish, I guess really if you don't, keep them out of the water long enough, most fish, when you turn them loose, even if you catch them out of really deep water like that, they'll be able to dive down deep enough to where they can have that pressure regulate so they can actually kind of get that air out of their swim bladder so they can actually go down deep. But I would recommend to anybody, and if you don't know how to do this, I would recommend you learning how to fizz a fish properly and buying an adequate fizzing needle. I bought 2 fizz needles from like Tackle Warehouse. They're like $18 for 2 of them, which just seems absurd for a needle, but they're built really well. You can build your own. You could probably get like a piercing needle and make it with like a Bic ink pen or something, or you can just pay the $20 and get them. But I think it's something that we owe bass as bass fishermen, especially catch and release people like most of us are, that we should learn at least how to fizz a fish, because there's been times where like we caught small fish in that 80 foot of water that weren't keepers. So we would put them back in the water and they would flop to the top because they just didn't have enough. They didn't have enough torque to get to the bottom. So we'd literally have to dip net them back up, and we'd fizz them and then turn them back loose, and they would go straight down there. And that's another thing about fizzing is if you don't understand properly how to do it, one, you can kill a fish, and two, there is too much fizzing. Like you can fizz the fish too much and it will sink all the way to the bottom and really can't do anything else after that. And they, lack of a better term, almost drown. So it's kind of got to know both ways. Nico rig. Ricky said very boring. Yeah, I'd imagine. Same fish. Especially if you couldn't see it. Like if you just like he's there somewhere. He's like right there. I have to
see a
get
shadow.
I don't know. And that was the thing about that tournament, man. It was super tough. But I went up into spots that I know hold spawning fish at Grayson. They spawn there all the time, every year, without fail. I know they were there. Pulled up in the spot, and it was 5 foot above summer pool, which means it makes them fish 8 to 10 foot, depending on where they're spawning at. You just can't see them. And it had a really weird water clarity that day, especially where I was at. It was almost like a rust collar. It wasn't like gin clear where you could see 10 foot down and see them. I think that's where like turning your transducer into with your Panoptics, turning it into what's a landscape mode, or what's the perspective mode?
Perspective, yeah. I definitely
think that
learn more about that.
Perspective, you can see indentions, you can see fish swimming on it. Apparently, I've never turned mine over. I might want to try to do that here soon, but so you can see those fish and at least know that they're there. It would be really tough to try to catch one, but he caught it, so that's what it was all about.
Yeah, I want to get better with the Nico rig too. I feel like that is just something that a lot of people are getting really good with as of late, and I feel like it's something that I need to learn to be more efficient at, better with.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I enjoy throwing it. This time of year, man, I find that I have more spinning rods on the deck than I do casting rods. It seems like, but shaky head, Nico rig, wacky rig, small jig. Again, we talked about it, like the triple threat from Blue Rock. Maybe something like the little spotty from Picasso. There's a ton of options there, but I definitely have those baits tied on. Some other transition baits that you may not be thinking about in this post spawn era is going to be something like a swim bait, crank bait, near ledges and stuff like that. Swim baits are absolutely one of my favorite things to throw anymore, and I'm not talking about like glides. I'm talking about, I just got these random ones laying here. These are just Rage swimmers. Bought these the other day when I was up at St. Clair because I ran out of white swim baits, and this is the only thing that I could find. My favorite are Kitex. If you're at a place like Grayson or Yatesville where you catch 2 fish a day anyway, you don't have to worry about tearing them up. Take them up to Lake St. Clair and throw them. You better have you about 50 packs with you because they absolutely annihilate those things.
Yeah, man, that's frustrating. I'd like to go back to Del Hollow. Honestly, I feel like I'm better prepared for it now. It's like Tyler said, you kind of just have to know how to fish that lake because it is a very forward-facing sonar, deep lake, and gosh, if they're not biting whatever you're throwing into their ball of shad, then you just got to move and find one where they actually would.
Yeah, and one thing that, so take this with a grain of salt, because I am no means an FFS pro or expert. But one thing that I've learned and I've been taught by people that are absolutely good at catching bass on forward-facing sonar or seeing those bass and catching them, the number one mistake that most people make is that they let their bait go past the fish. If you let your bait go past that fish, I can almost guarantee you they're not going to eat it. I don't know why. Maybe if you can get a bass to follow it all the way to the bottom, when your bait hits the bottom, sometimes they will eat it. I proved that true the other day when JR and I were fishing with Pedro at Greenbow. Saw fish on forward-facing sonar, threw a jig out there to it, and it followed it all the way to the bottom and bit it. That happens very rarely. But, the biggest thing that people do is they let their bait go past the fish in the water column. If you do that, it is almost impossible to catch that fish. I don't know what it is, why they don't think it's real, but there is something as soon as it passes them in the water column, as far as the depth of they're at, they will not eat it. So, one of the things that I do, if I can see the fish, if I'm out there scoping, I'll throw my minnow out there and I'll let that thing sink, and I'll stop it 2 foot above that fish's head, at least. I may be 3 foot, 4 foot, depending on how clear the water is. And I will keep that bait above that fish's head. I'm talking a foot, 18 inches, 2 foot. Bass, especially if they're really aggressive, will travel 10 to 15 feet to eat a minnow. I've seen it. I've watched them do it with my own 2 eyes on forward-facing sonar. They will traverse an absolute absurd amount of water to eat something if they really want to eat it. Keeping that thing above the fish is definitely key. And number 2, I can tell you, is do not ever stop moving that bait. When they start coming at it, you're moving that thing faster and faster and faster. Eventually, they'll eat it or they won't. Because here's the thing about it is, if you were in real life, if you watch a minnow, when a bass comes up to that minnow, that thing is not going to go about a foot and stop. It's going to try to get the heck out of the water column. It does not want to get eaten.
Yeah, I still haven't figured out what kind of is my favorite bait for forward-facing sonar. I don't know. I guess you've got to have a lot of success on something to really find one that's your favorite. So
yeah,
you got to play around with it. Maybe more.
I'm partial right now to the Jackal drift fry, just like the way that it looks. You can actually reel it like a swim bait too, so you can fish it multiple different ways, not having to be forward-facing sonar.
Gary's asking about Yatesville on Saturday.
There's a pretty good chance I'll be there. I forgot it was this weekend.
What is it?
Pedro.
Oh, I got you. It's Bill's birthday party, so I'm gonna be dadding it up.
Yep. Another thing that might surprise you this time of year, topwater is becoming more and more prevalent. Buzzbaits, frogs. I've gotten an exorbitant amount of messages over the last 2 weeks about those Firebird buzzbaits I was making. I am waiting on buzzbait blades at this point. I have 5 buzzbaits that are made. They are out in my garage, and I've already promised them to somebody. I'll be shipping them out this week. After that, I will be making some more, hopefully in the next week or so. So keep checking back. I made 40 of them, sold all 40 of them in 2 days. So I've been getting a lot of feedback on them. They are direct replicas of the little squeak from Greg Drown. So people have been catching fish on them. I've been using them, and they work just the same as any other bait that Greg ever made. These actually have a little bit better hook on them. Greg used to use Eagle Claw, I'm sure, to keep costs down. Mine have either Mustad or Gamakatsus, depending on what I buy, but I don't use Eagle Claw that often. I don't like them that much. Yeah, Tony, I can't speak to that. JR has 360, but he's, I don't know, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but the 1 or 2 times that we used it, the only time I could see that I would actually use that thing significantly is if I were fishing a rock pile or some grass line and I was spot locked down and I wanted to throw at that thing all the time. Personally, I fish so fast, it seems like. If you have that thing dialed in, even at the fast speed, it seems like it still can't catch up.
I use 360 a fair amount at Douglas. It was nice a lot for fun and rock veins. So Douglas has these really dense rock veins that you can find, and they just randomly go through. You can find them from the shore all the way down, and you can get out in front of them, hit them with crankbait or something like that. And I feel like I'm starting to get better and starting to find more uses for my 360. I don't find it super useful around here, to be honest. I'm hoping that it's going to be pretty useful when we go up north and looking for grass lines, especially. But I've never used Mega Live, Tony. I don't know. The pictures of it, I feel the clarity doesn't look as good as Garmin, but again, I've never personally used it. You know, Rob's wanting you to make some spinner baits, Tyler.
I actually do. I'll have to check downstairs, Rob, but I think I got about 30 half-ounce spinner baits. I made a bunch of them the other day. I just haven't put skirts on them yet. So I do have those. What bait do you guys swear by in late May or June? Have you guys ever tried something like weird that worked? Like, man, I tell you what, I was actually reeling one of those drift fries the other day through those bait balls and catching them. I wasn't forward facing sonar, and I was just reeling it through this timber, and I was catching the heck out of them. It was a fun time. I don't know if you guys saw a video there the other day, but the same time that we were in that timber catching those fish that were guarding that fry, Dusty's fiance called him on the phone, and he answered the phone, and it was, we were just fun fishing, obviously. So he's on the phone, and he's reeling this finesse worm through his legs. Like, he's got his rod in between his legs, and he's reeling the slack out of it. And then all of a sudden he gets bit. He sets the hook all funky looking, and then sets the phone down and is like telling her to hold on a minute, and he reels this fish in. It was classic. It was like, you couldn't drew it up any better.
I tell Chelsea that she's my good luck charm every time she calls is when I catch a fish. So I need that often.
What's up, Jared? Jared said hi, Jared.
Jared, what's up, Megan? And Jared. Hi from Indiana, right there.
So we're about that hour mark, so let's kind of wrap up what we're talking about here. Post spawn fish are really finicky. We all know that. We still can be some big fish caught, especially if you find some females locked on beds. Really aggressive males. Just be patient. Post spawn isn't always fast and furious. This is the type of year or time of the year where it can be really frustrating. It was really frustrating for me at Grayson there the other day, as well as everybody else. Ricky caught a couple fish and took him 4 hours to catch one, so that's brutally tough. It takes you long to catch a fish. Downsizing your gear can be an absolute game changer this time of year. Again, something like the Blue Rock Triple Threat 1099 jig, something like the little Spotty from Picasso. Even the Aaron Martin's football jig from Picasso is a good choice this time of year. Really slow finesse baits, drop shot, shaky head. Ned rig is an awesome bait this time of year. I don't think Ned rig doesn't get talked about that much anymore. It's just kind of like that bait that used to be that still catches fish that no one hardly ever uses anymore.
Yeah, I hope they quit using it because I'll catch the fish behind them on it.
Yeah. Another thing is watch the weather.
Go up next month. So Marathon has a tournament there I think me and Jared are going to fish it toward the end of June. So you should come up with us, man. It'll be good.
Watch the weather. Cold fronts still mess things up no matter where they're at. And I think that early morning, late evening still does the thing for them, just the way it is.
Tokyo rigs. That's cool. I've never had any success with it, but I don't know why it doesn't work for me, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's similar to the power shot.
Thanks, Gary.
Tokyo rigs work great. I don't throw them as much.
It's one of those, I feel like I need to fish it more. I fished it a couple years back, and I didn't have any luck on it. But, I mean, as much as I love drop shot, to have, a power drop shot with, I guess, a shorter leader, that'd be pretty good if it worked. It should.
Yep, pretty good. So you guys are about that hour mark. We'll see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I'll post a picture, or I'll post a post here in the next couple of days. Have you guys share some pictures that you guys have caught this year. We'll feature them next year or next week on the show. If anybody has any questions, we will field those questions now. And if not, we will be signing off.
Going to sleep.
Yep, I got 3 more days of school, and then it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. We'll be fishing like crazy, probably 3 days a week at least. I'll be burning it up. I'm going to take a trip, take my tent, back of my truck, head over to, let's see, I'm trying to figure out what lake I was going to. Somebody told me prior to this, but I'm going to go to Illinois and fish. That'll allow me to check off the 6th state this year, which I'm super proud of.
You know it, Tyler. Megan, how much does a chimney cost? Well, it depends on the components,
It's free. It's on the house. Duh.
Oh, Megan, Jared, I miss you guys. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, I burnt 2,500 calories this afternoon. I forgot to take the brownies out of the oven. Dude. Braidwood. Oh, that's it. Tony was the one telling me about Braidwood Lake in Illinois. So I'm definitely going. That's going to be like a few day trip by myself, hopping in a truck, about 7-hour drive from here, which is crazy. But that'll be the 6th state. There's a pretty good chance that I'll be checking off. Let's see. I got a work trip planned in the fall. I'm going to learn about a new CNC router that I'm buying, and it is in Utah. So there's a potential I could check 7 states off this year, which is cool.
Utah, man. You got to go to all the national parks there. Utah's got at least four national parks, maybe 5.
Zion and all that stuff.
Tristan's on there. That's funny. Last time I saw Tristan, he was a little boy.
Yep. Really quick before we get off here, this episode brought to you by Hannah Sublett, insurance broker, protecting your health, securing your future. 740-456-7944. Appreciate it if you reach out to her, look for your health and life insurance needs. Quick reminder about that, guys. I didn't think this was something I would ever have to address here, but the sponsors that are a part of our show, we have worked really hard to build a relationship with. I've had several people contact me in the last couple of weeks saying that people are reaching out to them for sponsorships as well. Please don't do that. That is very, very crappy. So with that being said, we will see you on the flip side. If you can, get out there and lean on. See you next time on Another Line.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of On Another Line Live. We truly appreciate your support, and we couldn't do it without all the amazing folks at home watching week after week. A big thank you goes out to our sponsors, who help make this show possible. Malone's Marine, Borders Sporting Goods, Solar Bat Sunglasses, Picasso Lures, Shimano, and Columbia Sportswear. Their partnership allows us to keep bringing you the content you love. We'll see you next time on another line. Until then, get out there and lean on them.